Hi, my name is Kevin Frank, and I've been asked to shoot this video for Big Frog's 4x4 as the first Reader's Ride. Well, here she is. This is my 2017 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. This is one of the first ones that was made. I took delivery in May of 2017, and as you can tell, she's a real beauty. And I'm going to go through and just kind of discuss some of the simple modifications that were made to the vehicle. One of the first modifications I'd like to show you for is fairly cosmetic. I went ahead and had the black factory bow tie. Did a chrome delete when I was in having a ceramic coating put on the truck. So you'll notice that the normal chrome surround has now been changed to red. It was due to a 3M vinyl wrap. After that, I went ahead and had some red Rust-Oleum paint. I think it was candy apple red matte finish. Painted the covering hooks the red color, so I think it gets a nice little accent there up front. And I did it to both sides. In addition, when it was there being detailed, I went in and had de-badged the vehicle, so the normal Colorado that's there, any of the other little badges along the side, except for the decal on the truck bed, were removed, including ones on the tailgate. And it had a nice ceramic coating, which from this angle you can actually see a nice reflection of my house. I wish the weather was a little bit nicer. Jeremiah asked me to do this video some time ago. I was hoping for a nice, warm, sunny day, but it is October in Ohio, and we get very few of those, so I apologize for the rain droplets and the wind you hear in the background, but it's the best we're going to get. But again, it does show, you can see my dog there, how well that ceramic coating protects the paint. It is Jack's Wax is the particular product that they use, and it was Tint Lab USA that did the actually did the paint correction and the application of ceramic coating, and that's something I hope with future off-roading trips we'll do a little bit better job of protecting the paint. I tried some other products, and they took them about 3 or 4 days just to get all the little scratches out of the clear coat before, so hopefully that'll do a little bit better job. I did forget to mention that I did have a black metal wrap on the back of the mirror, so normally body color, but I kind of actually like the black look there, and that actually carries on to the roof as well. So another 3M wrap down there on the roof to give it a little bit of an accent, and that will carry over onto the back of the vehicle, where you'll see I had a black accent added to the tailgate. And again, notice the badges have been removed. The Colorado badge, the V6 badge have been removed from the back of the truck. Just want to give you a little close-up of the roof of the truck here. Again, the 3M matte black wrap, and it was also ceramic coating. You can just see how wonderfully it reads up. And then as I drive down the road, it'll just completely clean itself. The raindrops are just going to work its way off. If you take a look at the rear, you can tell that I obviously have a retractable bed cover there. This one's by Retractable. I liked it because it's got a locking mechanism here. You can actually lock it at any position up and down the rail. That in combination with the locking tailgate allows me to have secure cargo back here. Now, you will notice that I have kind of carved out the shroud here in the back of the handhold, and in addition, I went ahead and cut out the stake pocket and went ahead and made it cut out in the shroud here. Now, you'll see later, but that's to accommodate the half rack that is installed on the bed. So I can actually install a half rack over this bed cover and allow me to go ahead and put a rooftop tent up, which I do have currently in storage as it's out of season. But it lets it slip down into those pockets nicely. I can still have locking and covered cargo area, but I can still have the half rack and the rooftop tent that is mounted to it as well for some fun off-road adventures. In the back of the truck here is one of my favorite additions. This is a power tank CO2 system. I believe this is the 10-pound model. The regulator is there underneath of the cover. I did have a custom mount fabricated. You can see it there in black underneath. It puts the tank at a 45-degree angle. One allows it to be a little bit more efficient. Some people find that having it straight up and down, you don't quite get as much efficiency out of it as at 45-degree angles. You definitely cannot lay it horizontal and function. It doesn't work that way. But the main reason for fashioning it is this, clearance. With a 45-degree angle, it can sit behind the wheel well here nicely, it's tucked in, and the other is you can fit underneath the Retractable bed cover. I ran compressors for a long time. It's just painful and slow to have a compressor. I mean, A, it takes a lot of juice, and B, it takes a very, very long time to air up after you've aired down. With this power tank, the only problem I had was when I was airing back up 4 tires, the regulator got a little bit chilly, got some ice on the line. So I could have done a little bit slower, but it took less than 10 minutes to air up all 4 tires back to highway speed. And I aired down to about 15 PSI on the trail. So again, definitely a worthwhile investment. Of course, you know, if you're going to have it in the back, I do lock it, but have an additional lock on as well. The aluminum bracket see is from Power Tank, but the black underneath is something I had fabricated personally. If you are considering a roll top for your cargo area, keep in mind one thing. They all have these bulky containers. You can see that here, side to side. You can see it's got a few dings in it. That's the only downside of having these roll tops, is you have to have some place for the roll top to go. So it goes into that canister. Now you do see those lines there. Those are to allow water and any other liquid that runs off the top of the roll top, goes down into the channels, then it goes into that reservoir, and then they go out the bulkhead there, the front of the truck bed. It definitely helps keep the area dry, which is great. Of course, right now I'm letting some water because I just went to the car wash to clean up for the video, and it's raining here. I have the tailgate open, but again, for the most part, it keeps everything pretty bone dry back here. The only way you can make it even better is they do sell, Retract sells a weatherproofing kit that you can add to the right around here for the tailgate gasket. I have not installed it yet. That's definitely on my list. I'm hoping that I can get a good price on one here soon. But again, if you put a gasket here, that'll make it more watertight. But right now, with that gap, it's never going to be completely watertight. This is the standard rim that comes with Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, as are the Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs around here. I've never actually been a big Goodyear Wrangler fan, but I'll be honest, the side lugs on here and the aggressive tread has been very impressive. Normally I go with BFG, either all-terrain KOs or the mud terrains, the KMs, but honestly, I've been very, very happy with these, so they're going to at least stay for now until I wear out the tread, and then depending on all-season performance, you know, I may or may not replace them with some BF Goodrich, but for now I've been very, very surprised and very happy with them. One thing I did install in here inside the wheel wells, you see there, it's a rock light. They can be either bright white for off-roading, or if you want to just show off your truck a little bit, there's also an option for multicolor LED. Very simple to install. They're from Opt7, very common product you can find on Amazon. There's the pod lights from Amazon. And as you can see here, they're working great. I'm using the wireless controller I got for Tractor Supply. And as you can see, no problem with functionality. But I want to thank Big Frog 4x4 for his recommendation. Loving it, man. Here is the remote light controller I was speaking about earlier. As you can see, there's 4 buttons. 2 of the circuits allow 10 amps, and 2 of the circuits allow 20 amps. Now, again, I'm using LED work lights, so I'm using 2 and 3 left, driver's side, 3 passenger side, because 10 amps is more than enough power to get to those 2 sets of lights. I'm saving banks 1 and 4, the 20 amps for a little bit higher use. Maybe light bars up front, running lights, don't know, or driving lights, excuse me. The rear, same thing. So again, using the left and right, the 10 amps for those work lights is more than enough power. It's super convenient to have it in your hand. I keep it in the visor above head, but it's also nice when you're at a campsite or a work site and you need to turn lights on and off. I can just do it here remotely and not have to run in and out of the cab to do so. Speaking of differentials, people often ask me why a Chevy Colorado ZR2. I've owned Wranglers, I've owned Tacomas, and I've actually owned a prior ZR2. But the reason I bought this particular one is the locking front and rear differential. There's a lot of four-wheel drive trucks out there that have rear locking differentials. The Jeep Rubicon, the Dodge Power Wagon, and of course the Chevy Colorado ZR2. I know there's a lot of people out there say you don't need one, crawl controls, other kind of electronic type devices that help, and that's mainly from the Tacoma TRD Pro guys. But I'm telling you, nothing beats a locking front differential. And with Chevy Colorado, get that. Now they do have their own off-road mode, not as sophisticated as the Toyota crawl controller, but to be honest, I don't need it. I've never had a problem, getting out of any situation having a selectable front and selectable rear locking differential. This particular model also comes with all-wheel drive, which can be helpful this time of year in Ohio when it's cold, wet, and rainy, as you can see in the background. and it's also great with snow, but again, when you're off-roading, nothing beats a locking differential. Having it factory installed also means it's covered under factory warranty. As you can tell, I went ahead and went with the petrol version or gas version of the Colorado ZR2. This is a V6 and it puts out approximately 300 horsepower and 300 pound-foot of torque. There is a upgrade of the diesel, or I should say upgrade in price. I'm talking about performance. It gets roughly 200 horsepower and 400 foot-pound torque. Again, these are estimates. I don't have the exact numbers here for the video, but you can look those up. For me, it wasn't worth the price. It was a significant upgrade in the price, and honestly, you know, I like the horsepower numbers better. So that's one reason I like petrol. Most of my engine area is stock. I haven't done anything to the drivetrain. You'll see there are some electronic additions here. One, I went ahead and put an additional controller here for just minor lights and accessories. This particular one here right now is for the rock lights. And after watching one of Jeremiah's videos, I went ahead and purchased this wireless controller for accessory lights. Now I have two sets wired up right now for the LED work lights that are on my half rack, which I'll show you in the garage a little bit later. And it is wired in, and I love the fact that it's wireless. I keep the controller inside the cab, allows me to select left versus right. So if I only need light on the driver's side versus passenger side, I can select those independently. I don't have the other two channels being used right now. I'm looking into different options for LED lights in the front bumper and into the rear, either the cargo area or off the rear bumper. But again, this is from Tractor Supply. Very inexpensive, all weather. I went ahead and mounted the 3M red tape on top of the fuse box here, and the smaller accessory ones here with the battery cover case. But I do like having separate fuses for add-ons and lights. I don't like using piggyback or splicing into existing wiring. I like having everything wired independently. The interior of my ZR2 Colorado is pretty standard. I mean, you have the leather seats that you often see in the LTZ version of the standard Colorado. Of course, the difference is we have the ZR2 logo stitched in the headrest there, but otherwise the interior is pretty standard. I do like the fact that it comes with Apple CarPlay and Android audio, because I find those far more helpful. But this particular version, the 2017, still has a GPS built-in map, which is also nice when you're out of cellular range and your mobile phone, your smartphone cannot bring up a map, Apple Map, Google Map. This one still has a GPS-based map, which is very, very helpful when you're off-roading. The only other upgrades I've done here in the console, there is the drop-in organizer here, and I also have the organizer here in the glove box. It's made by a company called OCD, which is quite hilarious actually, and they are available through Amazon. My truck, it's a somewhat of a daily driver. I do have a vehicle I use to commute every day, but in the poor weather that we get around here in Ohio, it often becomes a daily driver. But it's also a utility truck and a work truck, and of course something I use a lot for fun. I had a special pull-off installed here at the house, so I can keep the truck off to the side, allow us to get access in and out of the garage. It was a great addition here. It was done by a company called Aman Landscapes, A-U-M-A-N. Caleb and his crew did a great job, and I like having that pull-off there. I like to keep a nice clean driveway. Don't like parking out in the street. So having the truck off to the side here, it's been really great. Of course, I get a look at it every time I come outside. Neighbors get a look at it all the time, get lots of comments, lots of questions about the Colorado, and it makes me feel pretty good. One thing I did forget to mention before are these rock sliders. These are OEM rock sliders. I was a little skeptical at first because they're not frame mounted, they're actually body mounted. But having taken it off-road a number of times and actually used those rock sliders, they held up pretty well. I was very, very happy with that. So again, they are cab mounted or body mounted rather than frame mounted. I know a lot of aftermarket sliders are going to be frame mounted, but so far no complaints. If that changes, I'll let Jeremiah know. But at least for now, I've been very happy with the Chevy OEM rock sliders. One little surprise here in the garage, mounted above the garage door is my half rack and rooftop tent. The half rack, like the shock skids, are made by 589 Fabrications, and also like the shock skids, they are coated in a Line-X protective coating, thanks to Line-X of Lancaster here in Ohio. And holding up the half rack is a Recor, R-E-C-O-R, heavy duty lift. Now normally these lift a sort of a tray, a metal tray, and you can put different tubs and whatnot on them, but I've removed that, and you can see I've used these heavy duty carabiners to go ahead and hold the half rack up in the ceiling. You can also see the LED work lights. They're mounted on these tabs that are built into the 589 Fab half rack there. So a nice mounting, and that one's up inside the frame there. These are night NIIGHT lights, also on Amazon. You'll find out I'm a big Amazon fan. So those lights are wired into the controller, and I did use a quick disconnect for that, so I can take the half rack off, put it up in the ceiling, and then connect it to the truck when need be. It's a 2-wire quick disconnect. It's a trailer, all-weather trailer wire. Got those at AutoZone, and you can find them very, very nice. All right, let's talk rooftop tents. I picked the Smittybilt Overlander. Comes in 2 models, the standard, which I have, and then the XL. The only real difference I could tell is that the XL has a larger rain fly, and it covers a majority of the ladder. Most of the ladder's exposed. You only go under the rain fly just before you enter the tent. Either way, pick what works for you. This one works great for me. Fits on that 589 Fab half rack perfectly. I did buy some extra long bolts though, because the bolts that came with were a little bit too short. I didn't feel comfortable. There wasn't enough bite in the thread with the nut, so I went ahead and went to Lowe's and just bought some longer bolts. Now, there are more expensive tents out there with similar features. I'm not sure why anyone would spend almost twice the price for that. There are some minor differences between the Smittybilt and some of the high-end models. The biggest complaint I have, and I hear from other people, is that rubberized cover uses Velcro to attach to the tent. Eventually, Velcro is going to wear out. You know, I haven't had any problems so far. I've had it 1 season, it's done quite well, but I can see over years of use it might wear itself out. The more expensive models use zippers to attach rather than Velcro. They are noisy. I mean, it's industrial Velcro. They're very large. I mean, I think they're 1.5, 2 inch size strips of Velcro, so it makes quite a bit of noise. And so if you're setting up your tent at night, it can be quite bothersome. But otherwise, it's been great. I mean, to me, it's not worth a couple $100 to get zippers on your cover. It does have the thicker nylon, like the more expensive models. Now, I will warn you, Yakima does have a rooftop tent that they're pushing right now, but it's a very thin nylon, and I've read a lot of reviews. They didn't review very well. They don't do well in wind situations, and they certainly don't do well in rain situations. They're notorious for leaking at the seams. I've had the Smittybilt out in hot, extreme hot weather. I've had it out in cold weather. I've had it in wet weather, and it does great. I haven't had any leaks. It holds up, you know, with the winds that we get around here in Ohio quite well. It has a nice nylon pad, or excuse me, a memory foam pad, excuse me, inside, and I've had no complaints. It does come with some DC powered options. You can have a cigarette lighter adapter inside the tent. You can also have a USB inside the tent. Of course, they'll be powered by your vehicle. I use the USB power mainly to help with fans when we're camping out in the hot weather. My wife and I bought some USB powered fans from Menards, and it's been very helpful. But either way, I think rooftop tents are the way to go. We can have camp set up in just a few minutes. We could be sleeping and resting, and then when we're ready to go, fold it up quickly, throw the cover back on, and on our way. Much easier to set up and break down camp. Well, folks, that's my 2017 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. I'd like to thank Jeremiah for asking me to be the first Reader's Ride on his Big Frog 4x4 channel. Thank you very much, sir. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I can be found at ZR2_Zamboni. That's ZAMBONI, Q graphic. I'm also on several Facebook forums. There's Colorado ZR2 Off-Road, ZR2 Zone, and Colorado and Canyon Enthusiast. So again, I'm Kevin Frank, and thank you very much for taking this journey with me.